Hey, we're going to do an athlete's education for this week for the whiteboard session. There are three phases that I typically see when it comes to working with athletes and clients. And I'm going to make up a random percentage here that I feel will be pretty close to accurate. I'm going to say 95% of the people with whom I work are stuck in phase one. And phase one is an injury mindset. The injury mindset is very reactive. It waits for an injury to happen before it goes to get cared, before it tries to get things taken care of. Only once the injury has happened do they seek out help. And then once the injury is no longer felt, and that's important, not healed, not fixed, not returned to functions, not even returned to performance, once it's no longer felt, they're done. Usually they stay with a practitioner 2 to 3 sessions, max. That's the same mindset that goes to see a practitioner one time, doesn't feel a world of difference, and automatically stops going. The second phase is a phase that I actually have to trick athletes and clients into getting to. And I do this with subscriptions and memberships. And I present the subscription or membership as being able to come in to get worked on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And every single time that the athlete or client comes in, I say the same thing because I'm waiting for one moment on the reaction to what I say. And I ask the client or athlete, what are we working on today? And eventually, usually within like 2 to 3 months, there's a moment where they go, I don't know, everything feels good. And I get this big grin on my face and I say, congratulations, you've arrived in maintenance. And maintenance might not sound great, but it's a beautiful place to be because what that means is that you've been able to balance the scales on the extent of fatigue that the training has caused and also life in general with the amount of recovery that you've now handed over to other people to help you out with. Now, even if that's recovery that you're doing for yourself with nutrition and sleep and other soft tissue self-care, you've been able to balance out all the essentially damage that training does with the care of your recovery. And that's a really good place to be for a couple reasons. Another reason for it is because if you now change what you're doing, any subtle change, let alone big change, you're in a place where you have so many things managed that you can then just focus on that new subtle change. So for example, if you are a powerlifter and you go into competition prep, you're going to significantly change the percentages and volumes that your body has to handle. Well, if you're in maintenance mode for all of your training prior to that, you only have to adjust a little bit in order to be able to recover from that new stimulus. If you're an Olympic weightlifter and we go into a new program, again, changes in volume, changes in percentages, changes in the frequency of how often you back squat, changes in how many days a week you're going to be going there. Those can be accounted for much more easily. With the gymnasts that I work with, if you're changing what you're doing for the competition season, if you all of a sudden you're going into doing not just skills but doing half routines, if you're doing 1-on-6, if you're doing floor routines and instead of taking some of the passes into a resi pit, you're doing them on the floor but onto an 8-incher, or you're doing a full floor routine and you're not using mats at all. That's the same sport in all of those cases, but we've really changed the training stimulus. And if you're in a maintenance mode throughout all of that, as you change it, you can handle the change in stimulus much more easily and effectively. The last one is something that almost no one gets to. And yes, I'm a systems nerd, so I turn it into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. But the point of all of this is that label, this is where you are thriving. This point right here is where you're doing so many things correctly. Not so many things, just of the things you're doing them so correctly that you have a surplus of your recovery. People often get to this point right here and they're blown away by the fact that they no longer hurt. I don't mean that they're not sore. You're always going to have soreness from training. You're always going to have those days after leg day where you have trouble going in and out of the car, or you have trouble going up and down the stairs. It's going to happen. But people forget that you don't always have to feel like shit after training. You don't always have to have brain fog for days on end. You don't have to feel crippled trying to get out of bed because your back hurts so badly from something going incorrectly, whether it's biomechanically or otherwise, after deadlifts. You don't always have to feel like you're hobbling to after you get up off the couch because of the plantar fasciitis that act up from your Olympic weightlifting. These become norms that aren't supposed to be norms. And when you get to this mode right here and you get things under control, people's minds are blown. Like, oh my gosh, I don't hurt every day all the time. It's amazing. This down here, this is life-changing. This is what I work to get to all the time. A surplus of recovery. Because right here, your body's only getting by, if you think of it in terms of monetary value, you're getting by paycheck to paycheck. And you're doing okay. You're making ends meet. But one thing goes wrong, and you're going to be hurting. In this case, literally. Phase 1 over here, this is living in debt. When something comes up, you do your best to take care of just that. But that's the best you can do. You can't put money towards anything else. Phase 3 is like getting a big old fat raise. Suddenly, you can take care of all of the bills, and you've got money left over. And instead of this case thinking of it as money, it's energy and resources within the body that can be put towards other things. You have greater adaptation that takes place to the training, greater overall recovery, and it's an area, which is why I call it thriving, that people never really get to experience because it takes a level of dedication and proactive mindset that goes beyond just the maintenance. Getting people to phase 2 is hard enough. I want people to understand, athletes, clients, all of you, whether you work with me or someone else, this phase right here exists, and all of you deserve it. But this part, this is on you. This is a level of dedication and commitment and consistency and frequency that your practitioner isn't responsible for. We as practitioners are responsible for helping you understand that this exists and then to help you understand how to get there. But to actually do it, that's on you. And you deserve that. I want you to know what that feels like.